Good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to see all your faces. Yeah, my story is also a story of courage, except it's not about my fucked up parents. That's another story. And this is being recorded. Before I share my story, I'd love to ask you a question. So if you think back to a time when you really needed to ask for help, how many of you struggled with it, had some sort of resistance, some discomfort? Just some hands in the air. So I've got to read the room. Okay, that's a lot of you. Okay, so I 100% empathize with you. I don't know, if my discomfort to help is a bit like Donald Trump's attitude towards humility. Anyway, I'm glad to say I've got better, and this is actually the story I want to share with you. So a brief bit of background. I'm 50 years old, and my friends would probably describe me as very stubborn, proudly independent, and very sort of fiercely self-reliant. I'd be that classic person that would go, if someone offered me help, I'd go, no, I'm fine, I'll manage, I'll be okay, I don't want to be a burden. And I've realized that this has served me in many aspects of my life, particularly professionally. But 2 years ago, I realized I had a bit of quite a big life-changing event. And I've got two stories to share with you. So one is this story of 2 years ago, nearly to the day, I was urgently admitted to hospital. I woke up that morning and I was feeling, something's not right. And I'm your classic mammal. That's a middle-aged man in lycra. I ride like 12,000 kilometers a year, so I feel like I understand my body, and that morning, this wasn't right. I'd called up my house search, I'd explained my symptoms. I had these unexplained bruises all over my body, and they said, look, you need to get to hospital, and we'll do some emergency blood tests. So this was classic Ashley. I didn't ask a neighbor or a friend for a lift. I didn't even call an Uber. I thought, fine, I'm doing this myself. I'm going to drive to the hospital. So I get to the hospital. They do some emergency blood work tests, and it's revealed I had life-threateningly low red blood cells and practically zero platelets. So I was admitted to hospital. They gave me life-saving blood transfusions and infusions. And over the next few days, I was diagnosed with a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and a very rare autoimmune disease, and started a pretty brutal chemotherapy and immunotherapy treatment program. Sorry. So this was a pretty confronting time in my life. And I try to reflect back on it as actually quite a silver lining moment in my life. It was like an ask for help boot camp. I was at my most helpless. I had to ask for help. I had to accept help from an amazing medical care team, but also obviously wonderful friends and family. And it was like this most wonderful antidote medicine for this experience I was going through, this battle of the joy and the wonderful feeling of just simply asking for help and accepting help from people that wanted to look after me. And then there was this penny dropping moment of not only realizing and reveling in that, but realizing that all the people that wanted to care and look after me and offer me help, they were having this wonderful feel-good oxytocin hit from simply helping someone they love and they care about. So then I had this moment of like, so how is it that I've spent nearly 50 years denying not only myself, but everyone around me, this idea of what I now call the gift of help, like the gift of help for yourself and for everyone around you. So this now has led me on to this passion project I have, to share my story, believing I don't think I'm the only person that is like resistant or uncomfortable to asking for help. And actually, if I can inspire and motivate people to get over themselves, then perhaps they can experience the gift of help for themselves and everyone around them. And this sets me up to the main story I want to share with you tonight. And it's a story that I hope is going to inspire you and perhaps trigger your imagination around, look what happens when you have the courage to get over yourself and ask for help. So it was July last year, and I'm in the departures building of the Eurostar in London, St Pancras. It's early in the morning, it's a Monday morning, it's about 7:30, and I'm there thinking to myself, I've got this passion project, I've described it as a mission to transform us from a world of help rejectors to help receivers. And I'm thinking, if there's one person that I could really meet, it would be this guy called Simon Sinek. Now, I don't know if you know him, but he's a pretty famous guy in the whole space of culture and leadership. He came up with the concept of find your why. We'll start with why. He's a best-selling author, big keynote speaker to the UN and some of the biggest companies in the world, and a podcaster. And in his podcast, he talks passionately about this topic of help and how it being an act of service to offer help and it being an honor to be asked. So I thought, if there's one person I would love to meet, talk about my own passion project, it would be him. So there I am, that Monday morning, in the departures building. Everyone's busy on their phones, drinking their coffee, and I look over my shoulder, and who's standing there but Simon Sinek? And I'm like, this is nuts. This is like the universe working in some spooky way. So I take a deep breath, and I think to myself, come on, Ash, summon up some courage and introduce yourself and ask for help. This is too much of a gift the universe has presented to you to let it pass you by. So I think, okay, I'm going to get over my whatever fear of rejection or imposter syndrome and go and introduce myself. So I go and say hello, say to him I've been a massive admirer of him and his work. We have some little chit chats, and we have a couple of minutes before we get onto the platform and board the train. So we get on the train, he gets to his carriage, I then go and find my seat on the train and sit there, and I think, wow, I just met Simon Sinek, but I'm now on a train for 4 hours, and I've got this chance to hopefully speak to him and tell him about my passion project and see where this conversation goes. So I thought, right, fuck this. I'm going to get up and walk the full length of the train, carriage after carriage after carriage, thinking maybe we'll run into each other, maybe he's stretching his legs, getting a coffee, and we can start the conversation again. So I keep going, carriage 14, carriage 15, and I get to the very last carriage, and then I see him, he's sitting in the very last row of seats with his earbuds in, chatting to his like travel companion, and I'm like, nah, I can't do this. This is like too intrusive. So I turn around, tail between my legs, and walk back to my seat. And I sit there and I think, I can't let this opportunity go by. This is like, there's a little gift there and I've got to make it happen. So I then had this idea. I thought, right, as we're going to draw up to Amsterdam Central Station, I go, right, I'm going to get my wheelie bag and I'm going to walk the full length of the train, avoiding little kids and people with their coffees and lots of and I go and position myself at the carriage one before his, so that when we get to the station platform, maybe I'll get off and then he'll get off and we'll cross paths. we get to Amsterdam Central. I get off the train, and I'm looking around, trying to look like I'm not, harassing him. And then he catches my eye, and he says, "Oh, hi, Ashley," and we start the conversation again. So I explain to him my backstory and this passion project I have of mine, and that I've started a podcast. It's about basically sharing inspiring stories of other people's life-changing events and their changing attitude towards help. And I thought to myself, come on, Ash, what's your ask for help here? And I said to him, look, I started this podcast, can I share the trailer with you? And I'd love to get your thoughts on it and hear some advice on, is this actually a big thing and how we could scale it? And I was like, this might be a bit too much. And he's like, no, it's fine. Here's the email address to my assistant. Give me a couple of weeks and I'll get back to you. I'm like, whoa, okay. So, 2 weeks later, email drops into my inbox from his assistant and it says, "Dear Ashley, Simon would be happy to jump on a Zoom call with you for 30 minutes. And this is a guy who gets paid like 100 grand to talk at the UN or Amazon." And I'm like, he's giving 30 minutes of his time for me. "And if you're interested in creating an online course around this topic, I'll put you in touch with our head of content." And I'm like, whoa. This guy has basically an online learning platform with millions of followers and a community of what he calls optimist instructors who are like the top of their field, they're domain experts. And I'm being invited to basically join them. So that was back in August last year. Fast forward to a month ago, I've basically been researching everything around this topic of asking for help, what holds us back, some tips and tricks, and I created this online course. And 4 weeks ago, this online class is now live on his platform. Last week, I hosted my first online class. It's been promoted to, I think, more than 4 million people. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, someone said to me this time last year, you'd have a chance to impact millions of people around the world around this passion project, which I've now created a global initiative around, asking for help. I would have said, you're bonkers. You're Donald Trump. And that's what I hoped, and that's what I wanted to share with you this evening as an inspiring example and story of, look what happens when you have the courage to get over yourself and dare to ask for help. And then you can all experience in what I call the gift of help for yourself and each other. Thank you.
Very nice to hear this. Can I ask you 2 questions?
2 questions.
Yeah?
Yes, go for it.
Question 1, are you now rich and famous?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
Okay.
yet. But with your help, hopefully one day I will be, and then I'll share it with you.
Second question, will you keep coming here and telling stories even if you are rich and famous?
Well, here's a funny story for you. So, just under 2 years to the day, so this was a month after I ended up in hospital, I came here and stood here and told my story. So this is the next chapter. So I'll take it as your invitation to absolutely, I will come back here and I'll keep telling you the next step.